Hello. D.H. Lawrence was unashamedly proud of what he did. He said, "I am a man and alive. For this reason I'm a novelist, and being a novelist I consider myself superior to the saint, the scientist, the philosopher and the poet, who are all great masters of different bits of man alive, but never get the whole hog." That's the end of the quote. Despite many premature declarations of its demise, stretching back almost to the date of its birth, the novel has been, quote, getting the whole hog for hundreds of years. But what makes a novel different from other literature, and can we expect it to be around getting the whole hog into the next century? With me to discuss the development and the future of the novel are the novelist and critic D.J. Taylor, who has written a critique of the modern novel in his book After the War, and has just published his biography of the great Victorian novelist William Makepeace Thackeray. I'm also joined by Julian Beer, chairman of the Booker Prize Judges in 1997, and the King Edward VII Professor of English Literature at Cambridge University. Julian Beer, the novel is sometimes referred to as Cervantes' legacy. That book one was in 1605, Don Quixote. Where do you place the birth of the novel?
I do place it around Cervantes because I think he's one of the first people who raises that tremor of how do we believe things and how much is fiction controlling our lives anyhow. Whether or not we're in a novel, we're able all the time to understand ourselves in terms of fiction. So I think Cervantes is... I mean, some people try to take it right back to Apuleius and the Golden Ass and all those stories of transformation, Ovid. Fiction's always around. We all need it, we all live it, but I think the novel is a particular form, and that we actually do a disservice to ourselves if we try to take it right back into the Greek romances and so on.
David Taylor, D.J. Taylor, would you agree that there's a time when you can say this is when the novel started?
We certainly, one looks at one's bookshelves, one gets that impression that by the beginning of the 18th century these books are suddenly emerging from somewhere. You have Field, you have Fielding, Smollett, people like that, Richardson. And suddenly there is this great efflorescence of people writing fiction, often in forms that would be slightly curious now to us. The epistolary novel was a great favourite in those days. But there is this kind of a bursting forth, certainly that goes on in the English novel in the 18th century, and then proceeds to the end of the century through Jane Austen, and then there's a kind of gap, and the silver fork fiction, as it was called, comes in the 1820s. And then suddenly, just when people were beginning to think that it was all getting very quiet again, you have the enormous explosion of the early Victorian novel, beginning with Dickens and Thackeray, leading through to Trollope, George Eliot, and another extraordinary wave surges up through the mid-19th century.
I don't want to get there quite yet. Julian Beer, you said that there have always been fictions, but the novel gathered itself, let's say, let's all agree around this table, from Cervantes onwards. Why did it gather itself then, and what was it gathering? Are we back to Hegel's idea that it's indisputably linked with the rise of the middle classes because of they had greater leisure, they had privacy, they had space to read and time to read? Is it a social thing in that sense?
Cervantes, of course, is a Spanish novelist, not an English novelist. We've all acclimatised him to be English, but so I wouldn't feel able to say what was going on in Spain at the turn of the 16th, 17th century. But by the time we get it into English, which I think there is a delay, if we're looking at, say, Fielding, Defoe, Richardson, with Defoe, who is often has been taken in the past as the father of the English novel, we've got somebody who comes to the novel extremely late in his life, and I think that's why he is such a marvellous novelist, that he's worked as a journalist for years and years, he's invented all sorts of people in other forms, he's been a spy, he's been an advocate, he's been a brickmaker, and he takes all these things up into a single voice. And that single voice, I think, is what he gives to the novel. I don't mean that people go on writing first person all the time. Indeed, that's then one of the great rows that breaks out because, as David has referred to, you have the epistolary novel, everything written in letters, another kind of first person, Richardson. And Fielding says, why should we believe this? Why, just because people tell us their life stories, should we believe they're telling us the truth? There's no reason why we should think that any more objective. Indeed, it's a lot less objective than if we're writing in third person.